Good evening and welcome to another edition of the Evening Review. My name is Okito Greg, and in studio with me this evening I have Mr. Jesaya Hano-Oshike. He is the vice-chairperson of the Economic Association of Namibia, which just recently hosted the Namibia Oil and Gas Conference 2025. Good evening, sir. Welcome.
Good evening, Okito. Thank you for having me.
Thank you. Let's start at the beginning. What is the Economic Association of Namibia?
So the Economic Association of Namibia is a think tank that really tries to advance the discourse around economic policy and economic development in Namibia. And to that end, we do various activities from basically writing papers, advising government as well as private sector on various policy as well as interventions they could take. We also host various initiatives and events such as the Oil and Gas Conference to really bring to the fore certain topical areas of development, discussing it and bringing together various actors within our economy to hopefully help them in the right direction.
Okay, and this was the third edition of the Namibia Oil and Gas Conference. Do you think it was a success?
Yeah, definitely it was a success. I think since our first event that we held 3 years back, it has grown significantly. Last year we just had less than 1,000 delegates attending. This year we had around 1,200 delegates attending. And these delegates were, I think a quarter of them were from outside of Namibia, and 75% of them were from Namibia. And these delegates included people from the private sector, government, civil society, and as well as also students, and so it goes. So I think we're very happy with the way the Oil and Gas Conference has grown over the years.
There were many high-level delegates attending, specifically from government. There were people from the President's office present. What do you think, from government's point of view, the message that was delivered at the conference? What was that?
I think the message that was delivered is really that oil and gas is a very, very important economic development in Namibia. And it is something that the government, in particular the President herself, has decided to basically take under her wing. That's why she has created basically a division in her office to really tackle oil and gas with very experienced individuals and knowledgeable individuals. And then they came to the conference really to tell those actors within the industry that government values their collaboration in making sure that oil and gas happens within Namibia. We also had representatives from the Ministry of Industry, Mines and Energy. The minister was there as well. We also had the Prime Minister of the country also coming as well. So as well as many other technocrats who came to share their views and provide insight on the oil and gas industry and its developments within Namibia.
Yeah, and on the other end of the spectrum, you also had an exhibition which I understand was free entrance for the public. Tell us a little bit about that side of the event.
Okay. Yes, so we had an exhibition where we invited local ecosystem players in the oil and gas industry as well as international actors as well, from the private, public sector and civil society, just to come and show some of their offerings. And then we had then the public who could come there and freely look at the service offerings, perhaps so people know which businesses entities are actually operating within the oil and gas sector. If perhaps one would want to use their services, we really didn't want to create those collaborations for those conversations to get started and hopefully partnerships to be formed.
Yeah, and that all took place at the Mercure Hotel here in Windhoek, previously known as Safari. It's quite a well-known and established venue. But what I wanted you to expand on a little bit was the drive to get more Namibians involved in the industry in general. Do you think that message came through? Do you think that there were some practical opportunities on display?
Yes, definitely so. I think we're just perhaps going back. What is important, and I think what our government really wants to drive towards is local content, within the oil and gas industry in Namibia. There's a draft policy out there, and obviously government needs to pronounce itself on that final policy that will come out, because it's very important that Namibians do participate within oil and gas, and so they meaningfully so, and just not on the periphery. Yes, and then towards that, there were a lot of obviously Namibian entrepreneurs and business people that attended, as well as corporates, to see the opportunities that are within the oil and gas sector, and obviously had conversations with international delegates as well, who have experience within the sector, to see how they can get involved and such. We also had presentations on especially with a case study from Nigeria, in terms of how best can Namibia implement local content, and how local companies can get involved. Although, at least from what I saw, I think Namibian corporates, as well as entrepreneurs in general, business community, still needs to find, find that way to actually enter the oil and gas industry. And I think what came to is that, getting into the oil and gas sector is quite expensive, all right? It's not a cheap exercise, and then that has been a hindrance and a high bar set. Even some of our local banks, I find it very difficult to even compete to finance the oil majors, because they come with their own money, which is quite cheap, and sometimes the volume or quantum of the funds required are quite significant. And because of that, currently they're only banking them, basically facilitating transactions. But I think in terms of value creation, they should definitely be more done, in space, not only in banking, but in general, to see how best can Namibian, businesses get involved within oil and gas to derive maximum value from it.
Yeah, I think that's an important message. Let's circle back to that in a moment. But first, I'd like to focus on the average man on the street, not the entrepreneur or the business owner, but somebody who might think it's worth their while to work in that sector. What are the practical steps that need to be taken right from the start, once you've decided, okay, you want to look into it?
Okay, I think the first step, and I think there's another challenge, especially when it comes to employment creation within the industry in general, is to work within the oil and gas sector. For many jobs, they require certain skills and qualifications and certifications, which many Namibians do not have. And so it's really important then that businesses who perhaps employ these people really invest into them, and as well as government through institutions such as the Petro Fund, and perhaps our VTCs and universities have courses that speak to oil and gas. Therefore, they can upskill Namibians, and so that way Namibians are able to take on jobs within the industry, and that will then give the various oil companies less, wiggle room to say, look, Namibians don't have the skills, therefore they will need to get obviously various permits to get in foreign experts. So that's really another area which Namibia needs to work on.
Yeah, zooming in on that a little bit, I attended the oil and gas conference, which I enjoyed very much and found very informative. And there was a presentation that was done by a big boss from Northern Ocean. That's the company that owns the Deep Sea Mirror, which is busy drilling the Voltans exploration well at the moment. And that specific executive was making a plea for longer term contracts to keep the drill rig in Namibian waters, so that they could invest the time and money to train up Namibians to be able to do the job. Do you think that that's even possible I mean, it's such a capital intensive industry. I think he mentioned $100 million US a day just to hire that rig. Is it possible for Namibia to do something in order to keep these rigs in our waters for long enough for our people to get the exposure, the opportunities to learn what it takes to work in that field?
Yeah, I think that's perhaps a bit of a difficult question to answer, but I think it's possible, yes. And I think perhaps it starts also from the policy point of view and government, in terms of how best do they basically work with these oil companies that are coming in to drill, to perhaps create programs that will then constantly keep these rigs in our waters, so they're able to continue drill and also then incentivize, the oil companies who are here to drill to basically keep these rigs in Namibia for a significant amount of time, where perhaps it might not be that company, but could be another one, that continue uses these rigs. As I guess as mentioned before, it is quite capital intensive and expensive in general, to work, to have, to do any work within oil and gas, especially like drilling, and so it goes. So I think it's really just a matter of government sitting together with these actors, all actors, and working out a plan in terms of, how best do they perhaps work together on the drilling programs.
Excellent, excellent. At that stage, let's take a quick break for a commercial break, but we continue the conversation in a few moments. Please stay with us. Welcome back to the Evening Review. My name is Ogito Craig, and I continue my conversation here. In studio with me is Mr. Jesaya Hano-Oshike. He's the vice-chairperson of the Economic Association of Namibia, and we are discussing the Namibia Oil and Gas Conference 2025, which they just successfully hosted a few days ago. And I wanted to ask you, sir, about the gas aspect of the conference. Was there any news? We are waiting anxiously, and since the 70s, for development of our Kudu gas fields. Did any news come to light during the conference?
I think nothing significantly came to light. I think although there has been news now that I believe those who are responsible for developing the Kudu gas field are making progress, and with in partnership with NAM Power, hopefully we expect some good news soon that they will be setting up some infrastructure, both offshore and onshore, to be able to basically export that gas. But nothing significant was announced at the conference.
What were some of the highlights of the conference for you, and some of the big pieces of news that you were waiting for from your economic point of view?
No, I think what I was hoping for was perhaps that both government and the oil majors that have found oil offshore have come to a policy position, or rather agreement. So hopefully we can move closer to FID, because I think this industry will be a major contributor to our economy moving forward, and the sooner we start moving into production, the better for everyone involved, not only from entrepreneurs' point of view, but also from an employment point of view, our tax point of view, so the fiscus can get in more revenue to really support all those sorts of programs that the government wants to roll out.
That's actually a concern of mine. Our history and our system is not really based on sharing. Do you think that if lots of new money comes from oil, that it will improve the lives of the Namibians who are at the bottom of the food chain, as it will, the Namibians who are suffering the most? I mean, isn't it just going to concentrate at the top as it does at the moment? We're already a rich country full of poor people. What's going to be different about this money?
Oh, very true. And I think that's a hope. I personally hope that obviously our government does not fall, basically into the trap of the Dutch disease, as it were, or the resource curse, and we actually look into implementing social programs that actually help our people, looking at things of improving healthcare, looking at improving education outcomes, looking at perhaps financing local entrepreneurs, so they are able to create jobs and create value locally. And also looking at programs that can really help those in the lower income brackets. My sincere hope is that's the case. Obviously we've seen, unfortunately, some of our government resources have been diverted to go into the pockets of a few elites. But I think some action is been taken at this point in time, at least, and I hope that continues from our current administration. to really make sure that our people are taken care of. As you're saying, you cannot be in a rich country full of poor people. Situation needs to be turned on its head, and I do hope with the income from oil and gas and income from other sources of the economy, obviously, that is something government is looking into and will deploy funds, effectively.
You mentioned earlier about local content and the policy that we are waiting for, and I think the idea is that part of that emancipation of Namibians can be achieved through local content. But the terminology is not so clear. What exactly is local content and what's the scope of it?
Yeah, so basically local content is really a policy around how do Namibian businesses get involved within the oil and gas industry, so they also are able to derive economic benefit from it instead of just the oil majors or oil, companies that get involved, as well as their usual contractors, typically the big ones, which come from outside of Namibia. So now government is putting in place to say, look, at least a certain percentage of that spend that the oil companies are putting into Namibia must be for local Namibians. And this doesn't need to be basically direct as well. It doesn't need to be perhaps for let's say a rig operator. That could be quite expensive. It can also be in things like catering, could also be in things like construction, welding, and other general engineering services, medical services that they will need to procure. A certain percentage of that must come to Namibia. So the hope is that once the local content policy is finalized by government, it speaks directly to this, and there's buy-in from the oil companies, so they are able to really also empower Namibians on the ground as they're basically deriving a profit from the oil they will be pumping out of Namibian soil.
Yeah. But the thing is that the oil industry, and they've got very high standards. I mean, you did mention things like catering, and many Namibians are into catering. There are many Namibian catering companies, but not necessarily all of those would be able to compete. What advice do you think you could give to Namibians who want to prepare themselves to be able to compete for that slice of local content when it becomes available, and if it becomes available?
Yeah. Now, I think the first thing to do is really to empower yourself with information. There's a lot of information out there on the oil and gas industry. Let's say, catering, for instance, say, okay, what standards do you need to meet to be able to basically participate in this? Because it's not as simple if it's just me running a catering company, going to an oil major and say, look, here's my services. It doesn't work that way. So what basic services, standards you need to meet? What certification do you and your staff members need to have? And then once you have that in place, it's easier for you to be able to get that get that contract. I think there was a study done, I believe, by Shell and Total, it was called the Industrial Baseline Survey. So please, I think you should, if you're an entrepreneur in the space, go ahead, download that document. It's a long and a short document you can read through, so you can see the various opportunities that are within the oil and gas industry in Namibia. And it's also, I think it's tiered as well, from low-hanging fruit to the more difficult, industries or services to provide. So we look into it, and if you are offering a service in one of those industries, then do more research and say, okay, how do I prepare myself to get ready? So when these oil majors or other oil producers come knocking for the services, I am ready. So that's very important. Right now, I think before the production starts, get ready so you can participate within the industry once local content policy is in place and we're producing oil. Yeah,
just on that same note, I think I did hear somewhere during the conference it was said that it is not so easy to get onto the platforms which these massive multinational companies use for procurement. And one of the things that you need is a track record. I don't think that they are so welcoming towards startups or briefcase companies. You need to have proven that you can deliver before you get there. So perhaps now is the time to build that track record.
Yeah, definitely so. I think this is a time to build our track record if you haven't started yet. I think, again, once the local content policy is in place, it will target Namibian companies. And many Namibian companies don't have a track record within oil and gas, but they'll probably be looking for a general track record within your industry. So it's better that you get started now and start offering those services even outside of oil and gas industry. And once they start advertising it, you said they have quite stringent procurement requirements, you are able to meet them, but at least you know that you'll only be competing against Namibian companies, who also don't have experience in the industry. But unfortunately, you will lose out to those who have at least a track record of delivering excellence. So the time to start is now.
Tell us a little bit about oil prospects. As I said, currently we know that Rhino Resources is drilling. Is there any other drilling prospects on the horizon, or can we expect more drilling to happen?
I cannot speak, authoritatively on that, but what I can say is, from what I've seen, especially from oil and gas industry, there's a number of blocks that are currently being explored, and there are a number of oil companies that want to participate in that. But I think I cannot speak authoritatively on that. But but what I'm seeing, it looks like there is a lot of progress being done on preparing to drill further within different oil blocks within offshore in Namibia.
From the point of view of the association, what would you say are some of the successes, some of the things that give you renewed confidence that comes out of this year's conference? And do you think that you guys will do it again next year?
Yeah. I think some of the successes, is the attendance. I think we had targeted to have around 1,000 attendees, and we had about 1,200 attendees. So, and I think that is quite a good success for us. We also had a lot of delegates that came from outside Namibia, quality delegates, I might say, who came to network, come for business opportunities, and also as well as come and present. We also had a lot of local quality attendees as well. Large corporates really showed up, to come and listen, to come and network, to come and learn about the industry, to see how they can come on board, as well as SMEs as well. So we had students as well. We gave free entrance to certain students as well. We had policymakers that also came. So I think with a diverse a set of attendees at the conference. And looking forward, we will definitely go ahead and do this conference, and we'll be hosting a conference until Namibia starts producing oil. And I do hope, my hope is that within the next 24 months, and latest perhaps 48 months, we will be able to see production happening in Namibia, and we will then be able to see that production of oil contributing to our economy, and hopefully, again, as I said, we do not fall into a resource curse, and those funds that will genuinely empower Namibians and build our economy.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. So that was Mr. Jesaya Hano-Oshike. He's the vice-chairperson of the Economic Association of Namibia, sharing with us his insights about the Namibia Oil and Gas Conference 2025. And that's it for tonight's evening review. But join us again tomorrow night, where we'll be discussing something just as interesting. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Okato. Okay.